According to the theory of evolution, the origin and development of the universe and all its systems can be explained solely on the basis of time, chance, and continuing processes. All living things have arisen from a single-celled organism. A second and opposing worldview is the concept of creation. According to the theory of creation, everything in the universe has come into being through the design, purpose, and deliberate acts of a supernatural creator. That means this creator created the universe, the earth, and all life on earth, including all types of plants and animals, as well as humans. On today's edition of Origins, we'll talk about the age of the earth from a biblical standpoint.
Hello, my friends. Welcome to Origins. My name's Donn Chapman, and I'm your host. Origins is a program where we seek to take the evidence of science and use it to validate the truth of creation. We do that by bringing in some really smart guests, people who have knowledge in the whole field of science, and today's no exception. We have with us Dr. Brad Harrub, and he is a PhD from the University of Tennessee, and he studies anatomy and neurobiology. Brad, it's good to have you with us today.
It's very good to be here.
We're going to talk today about the age of the earth.
Yes, sir. In looking at the time between us and Jesus, it's pretty easy.
We got that one nailed down.
2,000 years. It kind of makes me happy that even atheists have to use a dating system that designates when Christ was on this earth. So, round figures, roughly 2,000 years. If we then looked at Jesus back to Abraham, we could either use the Bible or we could use secular historical information, when certain kings reigned, those kinds of things. And again, we would come up with about 2,000 years. What about Abraham to Adam? If we can get from Abraham to Adam, we're going to be within, give or take, 6 days of how old the earth is.
You got some question marks there.
I do. The question is, can we reliably get, remember there was a flood and a lot of the information was wiped out, so can we reliably get back to Adam? And that's the question. Those chapters in the Bible, Luke chapter 3, Genesis chapter 5 and 11, they don't just give you genealogies, they also give you chronology. That is the age of the fathers when they died and when sons were born. And using that information, we come up with a figure of roughly 2,000 years again. So it's easy for me to sit here and tell you that according to the Bible, the age of the earth is less than 10,000 years old.
Well, listen, though, I keep hearing it ringing in my ear, you know, the PBS show billions and billions of years ago, this stuff all happened. So obviously evolutionists think there's evidence that makes the earth very old.
Right.
You've said the Bible says. What does science say? Does it seem to indicate there could be a young earth?
Let's look at some of the scientific evidence. What I want to do, I'm going to put on the screen several different, what I call easy evidences that the Bible's young.
Okay.
And then we're going to walk through each one of them.
Let's do that.
We're going to start with Niagara Falls. Niagara Falls, prior to the 1960s, it was eroding back at a rate of about 4.7 feet a year. And I think you can see on this particular slide, it shows the various points at which the falls were. As the water would go over, it would actually wear away the edge of the falls.
And it did it at a pretty consistent rate.
Exactly.
All right.
Exactly. Since that time, we've built what's called water diversion units, so now not as much water's going over. I think it's eroding back at roughly 3 inches a year, something.
But we can assume that before man meddled with it, it was 4.7 feet a year. Okay.
Exactly.
Go ahead.
So if we use evolutionist time span, this Earth is 4 to 6 billion years old. The question is, where did Niagara Falls start?
Yes.
And it should have lapped the globe several times. So obviously, the evidence isn't there to support an old Earth. We can also look at the Mississippi River. You know, we know today that each and every year about 300 million cubic feet of sediment and sand, dirt, and junk are dumped there into the Mississippi Delta. So the question then becomes, okay, if this Earth were 4 to 6 billion years old, how much further would that delta stretch out to?
You know, no matter how old the Earth was, there had to be a way to get the water that was coming down on the land to the sea. So the rivers have to be
exactly
a part of the plan.
You have to be able to drain the middle of the continent.
Exactly.
The question, though, really should be, would there be a Gulf of Mexico? And given evolutionary time spans, no, there shouldn't. It should have long filled in by now. As you can tell from the screen, millions of years of accumulation, no, even without Noah's flood, we have less than 10,000 years of sediment there in the Mississippi Delta. Another is polystrate fossils. Polystrate simply meaning going through many different striatal layers. Here on the screen you see several polystrate trees that transcend varying different layers.
The idea that the tree would just stand there for millions of years while those layers of dirt formed around it doesn't seem to make sense to me.
Exactly. You know, they tell us, they look at the Grand Canyon and they say each one of those layers was put down over millions of years. And yet, you know, how are you going to take a tree? In one case, we have a whale, all these different fossils that transcend 2, 3, 4 different striatal layers. And yet,
they would be in favor of then a catastrophe that put the layers down very quickly rather than slowly over millions and billions of years.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. Also, speaking of the Grand Canyon, you know, they tell us that the canyon was cut by that river over millions of years.
Right.
And yet I've been to the canyon and I don't know where the dirt is. You know, if you think about it, ask them, okay, if that river really did cut the canyon, where's the dirt? Now, as a creationist, as a Christian, do I have an answer for that? Most definitely.
And the answer is?
The global flood.
Yes, that's right.
Moving on to population statistics. You know, we know today that here on the earth we've got roughly 6.4 billion people. We also know, we've been taking the census long enough to know that the population doubles about every 35 years. So 35 years from now, we'll have roughly 12.8 billion people on this earth. But we can also use that information to extrapolate backwards.
Sure.
So if we do that, if we know that right now we've got 6.4 and we extrapolate backwards, we should be able to come to a time in which there's very few people. And when we do that, we're going to come up with a number of roughly 4,500 years ago. And somebody says, well, I thought you said the earth was 6,000 to 10,000 years old. Yeah, but what happened roughly 4,500 years ago?
The Lord narrowed the field down a little, didn't He?
That's right.
To 8 people.
Took us back down to just 8 people.
Right. And so that model fits perfectly with what the Bible teaches us.
Exactly.
Okay.
Very much so. Also, we can look at the world around us. You know, according to evolutionists, we have different layers. We have the Carboniferous, the Cambrian layers. I bet you were probably taught things like coal were laid down literally 250 million years ago.
Well, now, that's something I was, you know, my grandpa was a coal miner, and his father came over from Wales because western Pennsylvania, where I live, is a good place to dig coal. And so we studied coal a lot, and we learned it took a long, long time, millions of years, to make coal. Doesn't that prove the Earth's old?
That's what we've been taught.
Yeah.
And, you know, if I were to mention the word coal, lots of people immediately think of, okay, old Earth, lots of vegetation, it takes lots of heat, lots of pressure over millions of years.
Right.
And yet the truth of the matter is, we can make coal, as J.D. Saxby admits, in just several years, or realistically even in laboratory settings in just a few months.
Now, all of those other 3 things you had up there are true. It does take a lot of vegetation.
It does take
It takes heat.
That's right.
And
in fact, it takes approximately 6 feet of compressed vegetation to make a single foot of peat. It then takes about 6 to 8 feet of compressed peat to make a single foot of coal. So it does definitely take a whole lot of compressed vegetation. We know it takes heat. We know it takes pressure. Guess where one of the largest coal reserves on the planet is today?
you tell me.
Antarctica.
That's fascinating.
So, you know, it tells
How'd it
us,
get
and it tells us that Antarctica has not always been that frozen, barren wasteland that we were told.
Something's changed.
J.D. Saxby put it this way. He said, in many geological situations, much longer time intervals are available, but evidently the molecular mechanism of decomposition is... Do you see what he said there at the beginning? He said, I'm still an evolutionist. You know, I believe much longer time intervals are available. But he went on to say, but evidently the molecular mechanisms of decomposition is little changed by the additional time. Thus, within sedimentary basins, heating times of several years are sufficient for the generation of oil and gas from suitable precursors.
So it actually could happen in just a few years instead of in millions of years.
They admit it. Not several millions of years, not several hundred thousands, not even several thousand, but simply several years. Also, just to kind of give you some more scientific evidence on the coal, things have been found in coal that if we were to use the evolutionary timeline, they just don't make sense. For instance, a lady named Mrs. Culp from Morrisonville, Illinois, dropped a shovel full of coal, transferring it to her cooking range, and a large lump broke in two, disclosing a lovely little gold chain of intricate workmanship.
So that means that when coal was formed, there were people there making things that are still around today. So
exactly.
That doesn't fit in evolution. So coal isn't a proof for an old Earth.
Exactly.
By
When
any stretch.
When you can have gold bracelets and iron pots and even human footprints found in coal, that pretty much just wipes away that 250 million years that evolutionists have taught us.
What else is there that you got for us that would indicate the Earth's not that old?
Let's look at some of their other dating schemes.
Okay.
On the screen you see what's called a trilobite. It's a little critter we believe to be extinct. It's kind of shaped like a horseshoe crab. And according to evolutionists, this guy is one of the oldest of all creatures. They
Way
date
down
him
at the beginning of the whole evolutionary
exactly. They
chain.
date him
Okay.
roughly at 500 to 600, as you can see here on the screen.
Million years
500
ago.
to 600 million years old. Here he is right here at the bottom of their geologic column. You know, we have the dinosaurs here. The mammals are coming in at this point.
Clear
and
back
yet,
in Cambrian.
And yet Mr. Trilobite's way down here at the bottom.
Okay.
So, according to the evolutionary theory, man didn't come along until about 3 million years ago. And yet, in 1969, a fellow by the name of William Meister, he was in Antelope Springs, Colorado. He was scaling up a rock wall. He was looking for trilobites. He was tapping them open. He was surrounded by friends who witnessed this particular event. He tapped open a rock, and lo and behold, he found a trilobite embedded in the sandal print of a human being.
That's incredible.
You know, I've actually had the pleasure of seeing this particular fossil. They took it out of a bank lock box for me, and I have to tell you, it's a sandal print.
It's a sandal print and it's a trilobite.
Exactly. You can actually see the stitching on the actual sandal. You know how a lot of men that wear their shoes on the back heel, so did the owner of this particular pair of sandals. So here we have evidence of humans existing with the trilobites, and yet the evolutionary theory is telling us these guys were around 500 to 600 million years ago.
Now, just for frame of reference, where would they put human beings?
Roughly 3 million years ago.
So there's 500 million years discrepancy
separation.
here. Yes.
Exactly.
Just doesn't fit.
Exactly. Also, talking about these guys, you know, according to the evolutionary theory, we went from simple to complex. You know, they place humans at the very pinnacle of all this, and yet the trilobite eye is much more complex than yours and mine. They have an optical doublet with a refracting interface in between. They actually have a dual lens system. Ricardo Levi said, he put it this way, he said, in a final discovery that the refracting interface between the two lens elements in a trilobite's eye was designed in accordance with optical constructions worked out by the very best scientists in the mid-17th century. It borders on sheer science fiction.
Wow.
So here we have a creature that has an eye that's more complex than ours, and yet according to the evolutionary theory, we don't come along for another 500 million years.
The simplicity to complexity model just does not work, does it?
That's right. That's right. And I mean, this is pure proof that this whole idea of simple to complex
Just doesn't fly.
It's actually, the better way to think of it would be maybe de-evolution. You know, maybe we're de-evolving. But that's not the only thing. We've also got other evidences. For instance, this particular fish is called a coelacanth. What I want you to notice on this particular creature is his front fin right there.
All right.
As you can see, he's kind of got a lobed front fin. Evolutionists taught that this was the creature that got us up out of the water. He actually used that front fin to crawl out onto the banks, and aren't we all thankful for Mr. Coelacanth?
Yeah.
The truth of the matter, let me show you where they date him so that you can kind of get an understanding. They put him at about 400 million years ago.
Okay.
Right here. Again, we've got mammals up here, trilobites way down here, so he fits roughly in the middle, right before the dinosaurs. Here would be where the dinosaurs are fitting in. What they told us was that the coelacanth was a shallow water fish. He used those front fins, he walked out onto the water, and yet, as you can tell from this particular picture, he's not a shallow water extinct fish.
That young lady is not 325 million years old.
She's definitely not 325
So
million
that fish
years
is, now the trilobite is extinct today,
We believe so, yes.
as far as we know.
Right.
But this fish is a fish that is
they're-
out there in the water today.
They are definitely alive and well, living off the coast of Indonesia. Fishermen have been catching them for many, many years. They didn't know their scientific name. They thought they were junk fish. What they really found was, you know, instead of it being a shallow water fish that took us on land, this is a very deep water fish.
Right.
And so they have found that this particular creature was not a link index fossil back to 300 million years ago.
Well, Brad, we got to take a break right now. Stay with us. Dr. Brad's going to come and he's going to sum this up for us, and you're not going to want to miss it, so don't go away.
Creation versus evolution. You weigh the evidence. 3 trillion humans, that's a lot of people. Evolutionists tell us that man became truly human about 1 million years ago. With some simple calculations, the total number of people living on the earth over the past 1 million years should be about 3 trillion. Where are all these people buried? And what happened to their bones? There should be evidence all over the earth that massive numbers of people have lived over the past 1 million years. But we don't find it. Why not? Today's guest on Origins, Dr. Brad Harrub, is also the co-author of several books, including The Truth About Human Origins. If you have an interest in the creation-evolution controversy, you'll definitely want The Truth About Human Origins for your personal library. Book orders are being taken at 1-800-234-8558. Dr. Harrub also serves as the Director of Scientific Information at Apologetics Press and has written many articles concerning creation that are available. For more information about our guest, you can write to Apologetics Press Incorporated, 230 Landmark Drive, Montgomery, Alabama 36117, or visit their website at www.apologeticspress.com.
Hi friends, welcome back to Origins. I'm here today with Dr. Brad Harrub, and he's been talking to us about the age of the Earth. And Brad, you've given us some pretty convincing evidence, and the erosion of things like Niagara Falls, and the filling in of things like the soot that fills in from the Mississippi River into the Gulf of Mexico,
right,
that seem to indicate a young Earth. And you've shown us that coal doesn't take millions of years to develop. It can happen in the right conditions in a very short period of time.
Exactly.
But you know, everywhere we go in our country, we go to a national park, we go to things like the famous caves in our country, you see all these signs that talk about millions and millions of years. Let's suppose we're visiting one of those famous caves and all those stalagmites and stalactites. Don't they take millions of years to develop?
That's what they've told us.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, I've got with me here on the screen an example of exactly what you're talking about, and that is simply, you know, over tiny drops of water over millions of years. This particular one says that this unfinished symphony was started 250 million years ago. And yet, as you can tell from the next slide, that's the Lincoln Memorial.
How many millions of years ago was it built?
1922, and as you can tell, there are stalactites hanging from that. We've got other examples. This is a picture from a lead mine taken in 1987, and I don't know if you can make it out or not, but there are actually stalactites coming off of the switch sign there.
Wow. And that's 55 years that it's developed all of those.
Exactly,
So-
exactly. One of my favorite images is this one. This is a stalagmite with a bat encased in it. You know, so you have to ask the question, okay, did that bat just stick around for millions and millions of years while the tiny drops of water just slowly covered it over?
So you're telling me that they come out very much like coal, that it didn't really take very long at all.
Exactly.
Yeah,
that
that's
is
amazing.
the truth. Let me show you another example. On the screen, you'll see a picture of well, actually, I'm going to let you tell me what that is.
Well, that looks like a fishing reel to me.
That's a fishing reel. It's actually
Bait casting reel, yeah.
It's actually embedded in limestone rock. And just to kind of give you an idea of the attitudes out there, when the department chairman at the University of Tennessee there in Chattanooga saw this, he made this comment. He said, "I'm the chairman of the department, and I say that this does not exist. It's a figment of our imagination."
You know, Brad, this is one of the hardest things for me because, you know, I respect truth seekers, whether or not they agree with me. If people have character and people have a desire to know the truth, then I'm thrilled to be in dialogue with them.
Exactly.
But this sort of reminds me of when we're going back to the fossil record of man, and we talk about putting pieces of different, you know, animals together to make a fossil and filing down teeth and
Exactly.
hiding skulls under the floorboards. And here we're looking at objective evidence and saying this evidence doesn't exist.
Right.
This speaks to this whole debate in a powerful way because it speaks to the integrity of the people with whom we are debating.
That's right.
And I'm very troubled by that we have people not looking for the truth, but just looking to perpetuate a lie.
It's simply that the theory is so prominent now that any time data comes in that does not support that particular theory, it's not the theory that's overturned, it's the data. The data are thrown out. And, you know, here we have scientific evidence, something that you can physically see, you can touch, you can go there to Chattanooga, you can see, and yet he's saying, look, this doesn't fit, so I say it doesn't exist.
Now, what's his motivation for that?
Well, if you were in his shoes and you needed, say, grant money or were wanting to publish in a peer-reviewed scientific journal, right now evolution is in, creationism is out.
And so he doesn't want to be the first one to stand up and say the king doesn't have any clothes on.
That's exactly right.
And that's the only reason that this whole, and we are telling a lie to millions of our children, a horrible lie that takes them away from their faith in the God who created us.
That's right. Let me share with you what I would call just the common attitude out there today. Richard Lewinson put it this way. He said, "We are forced to adhere to materialism, no matter how counterintuitive, no matter how mystifying to the uninitiated. Moreover, that materialism is absolute, for we cannot allow a divine foot in the door."
So if I understand Richard, he's saying to us that they know their case is not cogent. They know the evidence isn't there. They know that they're teaching some stories that can't be true. But the alternative is to believe in God.
Exactly.
You know, if you and I sat down and we were looking for solutions to a problem, but we said this is the one solution we will not accept, and that one solution was the truth. It wouldn't matter how many other solutions we look for, we would never find the truth if we had rolled it out ahead of time.
That's right.
That's the tragedy of what's being taught in our schools, isn't it?
That is, and you know, this kind of an attitude, you look back at the founding fathers of this country, this attitude is new, it's pervasive in our society today, and yet it has absolutely nothing to do with how our country was originally established.
It's particularly tragic in America because this country was founded by a declaration in which the authors of the Declaration said that we've been endowed by our Creator
That's right.
with inalienable rights. And so America was a land founded by creationists.
That's right.
For creationists, for the
people-
Christian worldview.
It was a people who believed in the God of the Bible.
And you're telling me that our scientist up there on the board, Dr. Richard, he isn't the exception, he's the rule. This is the mindset of most evolutionists today.
This attitude is very prevalent today.
You know, I just want to say to our viewers as we wrap this up, and I want to thank you for being with us and sharing some incredible truth. But I just want to say to our parents and grandparents out there, you know, don't do the work of the enemy. Don't be trying to find some way to bring into harmony evolution and creation. They are totally different worldviews. We need to teach the creation worldview because God made us. And you know, folks, if you need more information, get on the website, look for Origins at Cornerstone Television, or write to us at that same address in Wall, PA 15148, or email us, and the email address is there. We'll be glad to answer your questions. You know, I just want to remind you folks out there that it's God's view that He made you, and that ought to be our worldview too. God bless you until we see you next time.
Thank you for watching this edition of Origins. If you'd like a copy of the PowerPoint information presented today, you can download a PDF file of program number 443 from our website at www.originstv.org. Or for a DVD of this series, send a $12 donation to cover shipping and handling and write to Origins program number 443, Cornerstone Television, Wall, Pennsylvania 15148.
Origins is made possible by the faithful prayers and the financial support of you, our Cornerstone Television family.